Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Oh. Oh. How's the start of the semester, Andy?
Never better.
How are you doing, Jonathan? How are
That's my
things?
answer these days. Never better.
Never been.
Professionally fine. Personally, my daughter's got the flu. My mother had neck and spine surgery last Friday. She's fine, but just a lot going on lately.
Yeah. Yes.
We are staggering the flu in my house so that one daughter had it for a few days. And then we're like, oh, we dodged the bullet. And then a new bullet entered and the second daughter got it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, and then I'm going to get it in another. So we're like making sure we have a full month of flu in the house is what we're aspiring for here.
Right.
That feels right. All right, I'll put the agenda in the chat.
Great. Yeah, I was taking a look. Thank you. Okay, well, shall we get started? I feel like we have. Oh, Kathy's here. Hooray.
I'll put the agenda in the chat again.
I think Merle emailed me to say that she wasn't going to be able to make this meeting, but she's still around.
Okay. Perfect.
Hey, Kathy. Okay.
All right.
Great. Well, let's get started. Thank you so much to Rachel for making an agenda for this meeting, because I was like, oh, wait, I haven't done anything. And I was also on a plane coming back from Arizona when we had our last full commission meeting. So I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. So it sounds like Rachel has some plans for us, though. So maybe you want to walk us through a few things. And if anybody has any updates on what happened with this subcommittee at the January meeting, I'd love to know.
Yeah, so I'll walk through the agenda and we can cover all of that stuff. Honestly, I barely remember a month ago at this point. So what did happen at the January meeting? I'm not sure. We are going to be, Jason's going to be sending out a kind of a big recap update type of a thing with like some national updates and things like that we're hoping to get out in the next week or so. So that's kind of the plan. We did, I guess, under updates, Cindy and I were on a call with the America 250 Commission almost 2 weeks ago now, and they shared a little bit about their updated plans. There's not a whole lot that's come out nationally so far. There was, I'm sure you've all heard or seen or something, that there was a executive order that they created a White House task force for America 250. It's not super clear what the task force is doing yet. And that's separate from the America 250 Commission. That's still going to be run by the same people as far as we can tell. And they have a lot of the same plans as they had previously, again, as far as we can tell. But they did update the frequency of meetings to their meeting. We're meeting monthly now with the National Commission, so we should be getting more updates from them more frequently, at least. I don't know what the updates will be, but we've got some ideas as to what their plans are, at least, and how they're planning on moving forward, which is essentially the same. Optimistic that there's probably going to be some more funding at the federal level thrown towards it, but we don't know if that's going to trickle down to the states or how it's going to be earmarked or anything like that yet. So hopefully by the time we all meet in April, we'll have more clearer picture. There's that. Did anybody else have any things that they wanted to share that have happened since we last met, which has been a little while?
Rachel, just a legit question.
Mm-hmm.
Our specific commission created an IDEA subcommittee.
Yeah. With
respect to federal funding.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that we are concerned about?
We haven't discussed it. CTH is kind of talking about those types of things. But in terms of the commission, we haven't really discussed it yet. I think largely because we haven't really received any federal funding and there's no indications that we're going to be receiving it. But if they start making moves towards saying that they're, they want to give states money, we're going to have to think about what that looks like for us and whether it makes sense for us to participate. So, yeah, but I know we're pretty heavily committed to the IDEA and like we're committed to that. So, yeah. Liz?
Just as a note, I have been texting with Jason on about a bunch of things, and I know if you work for the state, you probably know this, but the instructions to state agencies right now are proceed as usual, and don't change anything. And I think this is going to be an interesting question to follow because there's one of this is because of legal suits being filed, right? And so if your state has a legal challenge against something, or if there is a legal challenge, then in fact, what you do to comply with something that is in a legal challenge could be very different. And so I just urge that that's something that's paid attention to, and considered, because since this commission has wide reaching, lots of different members who are from the state and from private bodies and things like that, and it was created by the state, I feel like there needs to be some attention paid to that.
This is a completely different thing, but I did go to the one-day event on Connecticut 1775, The Revolution is Coming at CCSU on Saturday. I was only able to attend for part of the day, but there were a lot of people there. I would say it seemed like mostly the kind of historical society crowd. We were not involved in planning it at the league this year because we decided to focus on our own conference rather than various 250 conferences. Sorry, guys. But it's been, it was good to connect with people and hear a little bit about what people were doing. I don't have a sense of most of the, to me, really interesting stuff, and interesting for this subcommittee was happening in the afternoon, and I had childcare responsibilities and I could not stay for the whole day. But there were presentations from Hartford and the Old State House, Norwich Historical Society, Litchfield Historical Society, and I believe the New Haven Museum, to kind of cover some different areas of the state and what they're doing. And then there was an opportunity at the end of the day for what they were calling colonial speed dating, which I think was just a mix and mingle kind of thing with a town crier. I mean, it was very it was very, of that, there was fife and drum music playing and there was somebody in costume, and, it was kind of like that. But I think it showed the solid attendance. It was free again, thanks to the generosity of a donor. So, another good opportunity for, it sounds like Misa from Connecticut Humanities was there. I did not get a chance to connect with her, but good to know that people are connecting and having conversations with each other. And I'll look forward to hearing more about what folks thought about it. I don't think any of you guys were there. So that's just my report that I attended briefly. Not too much to share.
Thank you. Other updates, or I can share some on our conference? Cool. So our conference is coming too. March 21st, the registration went live, and I just sent it out yesterday to our mailing list. We are going to share kind of a flyer that you can use to disseminate out to people that are in your networks as well. The program is essentially set in terms of breakout sessions. We're waiting to hear back from a few presenters. They've all been notified, but still waiting to hear back from a few. We had a lot of really great sessions. Andy helped review them, and Liz and John, you were both at the wrap-up meeting where we kind of helped figure it all out. We ended up we were intending to do 4 tracks, but just kind of based on what we got, there are going to be 6 tracks. So we spread out the Tell Inclusive Stories because we had a ton of proposals under Tell Inclusive Stories, and a lot of them are really great. So we're doing kind of little tracks for educators and for people who are doing work in, like, there's a couple of genealogy tracks that were both, or sessions that were both pretty good. So we are expecting we'll probably have a good number of genealogists there. So we've got a track for them. And then, things like that. So people that are working on this in towns will have things to go to. People who are in arts and culture spaces will have sessions to go to throughout the day. So it should be really good. Our closing keynote speaker, unfortunately, was with NEH and he had to back out. So we're looking for a new closing keynote speaker. I spoke with somebody yesterday who we're hoping will be able to jump in on it. And if not, we've got a list that we're going to go down. But that's, we'll make that public as soon as we can make it public. But unfortunately, we're in a little bit of a scramble spot. So probably nobody's surprised that somebody from the NEH had to cancel.
Is your backup plan, Rachel, top secret? I won't push you on it if it is, but I was curious if you were able to share.
No, it's not top secret. I spoke with, well, let me be respectful to her. I'll share at another time when we're not live on YouTube.
Yeah, got it. Sure.
She had some concerns as well. So we want to make sure that she wanted to make sure that she felt good about it and would be able to say what she wanted to say.
Makes sense.
Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll go down the list. So if we have to. So yeah, registration's live. It's up on the website. We'll be sharing it out, and Andy, I'll definitely send it over to you and to everybody. And I think that's it for conference.
Yeah. Your mention of the genealogist just reminds me of another quick update, which is probably more for you than for the rest of the group, but because it does it pertain to kind of engaging different groups of people with the 250th. I had a productive virtual meeting with Brenna O'Sullivan, who is involved with the professional genealogist group and also does her own genealogy business. She gave me some really good ideas about ways that we could bring genealogists in, I think, more through league programming, collaborations maybe with the State Historical Records Advisory Board or other programming we're doing around kind of like training and using archival materials, things that you can use genealogical research methods to do that relate to the 250th. But Rachel, she gave me some good lists and contacts for how to spread information out through the genealogical community. And I encouraged her to get the folks in her networks kind of more engaged with what's going on the website. So hopefully that has something to do with maybe some of the things related to the conference. But, I think that it was a good conversation where I think her impression was that many genealogists were feeling left out. And I think we both left the conversation feeling like we had some really good positive things to do moving forward. So
good. Perfect. And we can definitely share
other sidebar
with her as well. Yeah. Perfect. Other conference related questions or comments?
Okay. Is the schedule up on the website now?
It is, but it's there's no names on it for obvious reasons. But it is on the website, and we do have a flyer that has it on it as well that we're going to circulate. So, yep, it's all there. The next thing on the agenda, program evaluation and attendance tracking is something that has kind of been on the list for us to start doing or start working on with affiliate organizations and towns, that basically anybody who's putting on 250th programming. We'd like to try to start being able to collect some data on what the programs are that are happening, what the themes are that they're tying into, what type of programs are they offering? Are they virtual? Are they exhibits? Like those kinds of things. And then the resources that they're using and the resources that they need. We're hoping to kind of gather that in an organized fashion versus just chatting with people in meetings, and gathering that kind of data that way, because that'll help us plan what the commission needs to do going forward, but it'll help us with a lot of reporting to the state and the governor's office, and with advocacy efforts, things like that. So what we put together, and it's linked from the agenda, and hopefully you should all be able to access it. Your 250th account should have access to it, but I'll keep my email up if I have to grant access to anybody. We created a draft form, trying to keep it as basic as possible so that organizations will fill it out, because we don't want it to become too onerous to do that. So hoping that we can take a look at it and see what we're asking. Does it feel right? Is it too much, or is there something that we're missing? And then part 2 is collecting some demographic data, which I think is going to be more challenging than just collecting information about the events themselves. We'd like to try to collect some demographic data about who's attending these events, but I'm not really sure of the best way to do that with these organizations and then have them report back to us. So we can probably start with just looking at the section 1 of the form, and then chat about the demographics after we've done that. But is everybody able to access it?
I'm looking at it now. Do you want me to share my screen or?
Yeah, sure.
Go. So this is for affiliates primarily?
It'll primarily be for affiliates, and then town committees that are planning programming as well.
Okay. All right.
But I think affiliates are going to be the most commonly using it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm just looking through it because I haven't accessed it prior to this. Hope I'm moving at a reasonable pace for folks.
The demographic part I have not built all the way out yet, because I started building it and I was like, this isn't going to work this way. So I stopped.
Rachel,
Okay.
is this something, I'm sorry, is this something that you're going to ask people to complete once they've had an event, or is there going to be any carrot or stick tied to it, or it's quite lengthy? I'm just noting that as a person who hates doing these and forgets.
Yep. I am that person too. So I think we'll welcome any suggestions as to how to get these organizations to complete this. We're definitely going to share it with affiliates. I don't know how many carrots we have to offer to them to get them to actually do it. So it may end up being a type of thing that is more done by the organizations that are super interested and engaged and want to share this kind of data. Obviously, we're hoping that we'll be able to collect this for most 250th events, but I'm not sure how, what tools we'll actually have to encourage it if they're not inclined to do it to begin with.
Is there going to be anything, or could there be anything that triggered a reminder with a link to is that so when is that? Is that going to happen after?
Yeah, so we will we can tie it with the calendar. So if we have events on our calendar, we can kind of, we'll be tracking what's going on, and we can follow it that way. So it won't be just in a vacuum, like here's this link to the survey and do it whenever you have an event. We can follow up with affiliates as they're doing things.
I feel like it's the demographic stuff that's going to be hard for organizations to collect in the first place. And I'm wondering how you're anticipating they'll be able to do that.
That's why I added in the chat here some of the stuff that we're doing from the cultural fund, because people are getting in the habit of doing this stuff already. So I would ask some of the same questions as often as possible, because they're already used to it, versus creating new things, and always have those fields when you get to this be optional versus mandatory, as we know that not everyone will be collecting that information. And that would be the recommendation here from our consultant as well, is try to get as much data as you can, but have it be optional versus mandatory fields.
Yes, and we were the document that you shared, Scott, that is what we were going to use as a model for it. I'll probably connect with you on how you're actually getting that data back from organizations, Scott, but we were thinking maybe publish a PDF that they can have print copies actually at the events for folks to fill out, or do some sort of QR code type thing that individuals can do on their own. So it may be difficult for this, just because we're not giving out grants to these organizations, so we don't have that to kind of hold over them on this. And it frankly could be a lot to ask to have organizations start collecting demographic data and collating it for us and sending it back to us. But if we can come up with a method to have individuals attending these events as much as possible,
let's talk
data on their own.
Let's talk more offline, but I mean, we don't have the carrot anymore either, since the cultural fund funding has gone away. But that's why we've created templates that we're hoping people will continue to use. And I do go to programs and sites now where it's like, I know where these questions came from, because they're literally asking me to fill it out and they're capturing it already. So it might be the kind of stuff that some places are going to be doing on their own, so it won't be new for them.
Yeah.
Scott, can I ask a question about how organizations are collecting this data? Like, is it through when people register for an event, there's like an optional demographic thing that they can fill out in an online form, or are they collecting it in some other way? Because we ourselves have had difficulty capturing this information and haven't found a way to do it that doesn't make people upset.
I mean, there is no one size fits all here, because there are places that have online registration systems. And in those situations, after you're getting the mandatory stuff that you need to be able to just register them and get payments, they might have an optional screen that says, appreciate if you would take an optional answer a few optional additional questions for us to track for information for our funders. Totally optional, not required type of thing. Other places, I mean, literally I sign in at, I think it was like Manchester Historical Society, and I went to a program there for an exhibit that we funded opening, and they were doing it at the sign-in desk there and asking people to give us a little bit of information there for their funders. And there's lots of in between. People are leaving it on chairs at places. I go to a program and it's there, and they're asking for it to hand in at the end of the program.
Yeah.
But really actually thinking about data,
what do we want to know?
A couple things is, one is, that's like, what's the most important piece of information? If somebody's filling this out upon registration, you don't know if they're going to show up. So that's the next thing. So there may be no correlation, right? So I worry about data that's assumption based. And then if it's on chairs, and like if maybe there's 50 people and you've done a quick scan, there's 50 people here, and you end up with 13, pieces of data. What are most people going to do, right? Are you going to guess? Because by the way, we should not be teaching them to guess and not be reinforcing anything that they should do to be guessing about data. That is very, very bad. I just, I think maybe one way to incentivize this again, and I mean, the 250th, for whatever reason, we're probably having a moment. We should use the moment, right? But that means that I think what would be the most important is if you're hosting an event, that you start getting data sets almost weekly of who's what is happening, right? So if I was getting a data set weekly of what's happening in terms of 250th activities across Connecticut, I might be more likely to actually try to get good data for you. Like that's that's like an incentive that I can think, but that's kind of a bitch on your part, right? Because really we want to just look at the data at the end. If you're me. I just think I totally understand why, but then I think about the big things that are going to attract the most people, right? They're not going to be able to collect any data at the big things, right? The fireworks and the this and the that. That's not going to even be possible. So if it's not possible to collect it from the big things, because there's no way you could get even half the people, then why are we collecting it anyway? Like, what are we going to do with partial data sets? And I know I sound like I'm being kind of not supportive of this, and I love data, but I just don't want crap like, I don't want people working hard to end up giving us data that can't be used because it's crappy. That feels mean.
Yeah.
Is the idea behind this to demonstrate impact, like, or what, I think the question is more like, what is the data going to be used to do? Is it going to be used to report out to the governor's office about, all the things that the commission was able to encourage and facilitate? Is it going to be used to advocate for funding? Is it going to be used to analyze the depth and impact of, maybe all of these, maybe some things I haven't thought of, but like, what's the idea behind this that we want the data to do? And is there something in it for the organizations in knowing what the data is going to do that could be a part of that incentive?
Good question.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know I'm the administrative assistant. I'll do the best I can.
You're doing good. Like, you're getting a lot of not nasty. Like, this is actually really like, how do we make it easy for people and get what's important? And if they're filling out a certain amount of information to get their online event posted or to share their event, and then at the end, if the question you ask them is how many people attended, that might give you enough impact information for this particular celebration, right? We're collecting some in the front, so we know, like, I don't know, and weather. I always like weather, but do a count and then sharing a total number of people. You could do a really cool dashboard with a total number of people who have gone to events that are related to the 250th on the calendar. Like, I might be actually that would make me answer your question.
Okay.
I'm just like, okay, I want to be on that tick box. Or if it's filling the thermometer, like if the goal is 1 million people in Connecticut go to events. Okay, like I want
that.
Right?
So we do have some goals related to like attendance and number of events and things like that. And that will help. This will help us with reporting on that. And advocacy as well, Amherst. So really trying to show how many people are engaging in 250th events. I think will go a long way towards those goals. And as you were talking, Liz, I was, thinking about it. Say we're tying this to our calendar. we're already going to know a lot of this information that's on this form. So a lot of it's probably going to end up being redundant. The
Right, and
themes, like that's already on the form that they submit when they put an event on our calendar in the first place. So if we can sync it up with that form and tie it together, I think we can reduce the length of this after the fact form that they're filling out.
Those would be my recommendations, Rachel, is
Yeah.
shorter versus longer.
Mhm.
If you can capture it at the front end, you don't need to capture it at the back end.
Mhm.
And, you know, whenever possible, to be asking things in the same way that they might already be capturing it because we're asking for it or the state is asking for it somewhere else.
Mhm.
And to Liz's, earlier question, I mean, we're just going to do the best we can. I mean, you're right. We want to know about Hartford Bonanza, but how is Hartford Bonanza capturing some of that information?
Mhm.
I don't think we have to get worried about that. We'll just try to ask the kind of questions that we want and try to get the best data we can and give them the best tools we can to get the best data, knowing that it's going to be easier to gather it from a 20-person author talk than it is from a event in downtown Hartford with 20,000 people.
Can I make two quick suggestions also? I think this is maybe in line with where Liz was going, but something like this that says, we would love to brag about your successful event. Is there anything you can share about it? Do you have pictures? Were there a lot of people there? Did you reach a whole bunch of new communities? Something like that that feels really different because everybody who hosts an event wants to promote their organization. So that's one, so it doesn't feel like you're at the doctor's office. Feels more like you're going to get free publicity. That may be one way to do it. And the other thing is, and I grimace as I make this suggestion, but if we're looking for things to cut, we may want to consider cutting things that will be legally actionable rather than introducing new legal trouble to our programs.
So I wouldn't worry about that too much right now, but I understand why you're saying it, Andy, for sure. I just think, what do you want to know? I had a party. How many people came?
Yeah.
Right? If you had a big party and you thought you were going to get like, how many people do you anticipate? If they put 250, if you're asking that front end, and I don't even care. Really, all I care is somebody came. I had a party and people came. And later on, that's all that people are going to care about. I work with the legislators all the time. Literally, they just care that people come. Right. And so I'm like, I think some of these things might be interesting to us, but if we're doing our job up front, why penalize people for working really hard, like to do their job?
Do you have a favorite picture you can share? Might be a fun one. That might actually
I like
be
that. I love that. Like your suggestion's good. I like 100%. That's great.
Yeah, and we're already trying to do some affiliate spotlights on social media too. So I think that can really tie nicely into that. And we'll get hopefully some fun pictures instead of just some logos. So I think that'll be helpful in a couple different ways. But this is all good.
If you do that, just make sure you've got language not only asking for it, but getting permission to use it for 250th commission purposes.
See, we're always thinking about the law.
Okay, Rachel, do you feel you have what you need?
I think so. And I think, when it comes to demographics, I think that'll be a nice to have. It's definitely never going to be a requirement. And I hear what you're saying on making it as easy for the organizations as we can. So, yeah.
Just because that stuff needs to be sort of self-reported, it's like, I was thinking the thing that would be useful for an organization is like if they're having in-person events, if they have like a clipboard where they can like put in a bunch of things for a bunch of their events on one piece of paper and then go in and like submit that information to you. But like you can't have the person who's observing the event making those, the demographic things, right? But if there are things, if you do end up doing something that's more than like just when was the event and how many people were there, A small organization would probably appreciate, that's an affiliate, would probably appreciate a little piece of paper that has the things that they're going to need to put into the Google form later that they can like collect at the time.
Mhm.
You know, I feel like a tool like that would not be a bad idea once we figure out what it actually
Right.
is
Right. What
needed.
the exact language is on here, we can make some sort of
The
a handout,
worksheet helps, you
a
know,
worksheet.
and then
Yes.
you get the data in the form
Yeah.
that you want it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because otherwise they're just guessing after, and that's never right. So perfect. All right. I think any other comments on that? I think I feel good about it. All right. So last thing on my list is local committees. So we are at, well, at the end of the year, we were at 59 local committees. A couple weeks ago, Cindy and I went to the COST annual town meeting, the Council of Small Towns, and we talked with a lot of people. We got a lot of new contacts. So I don't know exactly what number we're at now, but we really expanded our list of contacts in the last couple of weeks. So that's really exciting. We do have some things that we're coming up on that we want to make sure that we are getting in touch with as many towns as we possibly can. The biggest example that's coming up is we are hoping to have municipalities adopt a proclamation around the 250th later this summer. And we want towns to participate at Hartford Bonanza in 2026. So that's something that we want to make sure that we are communicating with them about now and getting it on their calendars now, because that's going to be a busy time and it's going to be tough to get them there. So what we've done so far to get in touch with municipalities, we've done a couple of print mailings, some bulk emails. I've done a good amount of individual outreach, phone, email. But we're kind of, we keep on getting these spurts and then we slow back down again. So what we're hoping that we can try is to do a little bit of outreach from commissioners to encourage towns to participate. And so what I've done, and I'm hoping that you all can help, is pull together a list of the municipalities that we don't have a contact for yet. And we have contact information for the town CEO, either the mayor or the first selectman. And what I'm hoping is if everybody takes just 10 and just spends a few minutes sending emails to them, calling if you have the time to, but because that's where I've had the most success. But if you don't have the time to make the phone calls, just send a quick email. And I'm hoping that we can build this list out a little bit more. And if it's coming from you and not Rachel Gonzalez, America CT or America 250 CT staff, it might carry a little bit more weight. So I put together a list. I put together an email template that you can use, copy paste, or change it if you want to. But I'm hoping that we can, I'll do that. So if you can see it, I'm hoping that I built it so that it looks good and it makes sense to everybody. And that everybody has access to it. But if you need access, send me a request.
Okay, so the ask is just who's your contact, who should we be contacting about stuff?
Exactly. And what we have found is that a lot of towns know about this and already have designated somebody, but they just haven't told us yet. Yeah. So the email template that I put together is, just a little bit of information about the commission. Some towns don't know about it, but most of them do have an idea at this point. And then, sharing the map that we've created so they can see what other towns are doing or how other towns are being portrayed, and see if they've set up a committee yet. And if they haven't, asking them to do it. And if they have, tell us who they are.
Okay. One thing I would find useful is on the spreadsheet is like the title of this person. like
yep.
whether the mayor or whether they're so you can address them properly.
Mhm.
And it doesn't feel quite like a mass email, but feels a little more tailored, just so I don't
Mhm.
have to go in, since you've pulled this information, presumably you have information about who these people are, if it's the
I do.
mayor, if it's a town manager or somebody like that.
Yes. All of the people on this list are either the first selectman or the mayor.
Okay.
It's not the town manager.
Okay. First selectman or mayor. Okay.
First
So-
selectman or mayor. Yeah.
Do you want to I'm happy to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe here's my proposal. Maybe everyone who's happy to send some of these emails should raise their hand now, and then we can divide them up. I mean, because we don't need to send, your idea is not that each one of these people gets 7 emails, right? You want.
No, she's divided them up in the
I
spreadsheet.
just gave everybody
I'm sorry, I'm not
tab in
seeing
the
it on the table. Where
spreadsheet.
am I, where am I seeing it?
Oh,
So-
if you're in the spreadsheet, I just made tabs for everybody. And I
So
know
there's an Amherst
I know
tab,
not
there's an
everybody will
Andy
be able to
tab.
do it.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I understand. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Got it.
Yeah, so I just kind of divvied it up. I just put
Yeah, I
10
didn't see the
on
tabs. No,
everybody.
you've
and
done
yeah.
already what I was going to ask you to do. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. And then, what I'm asking or what I'm thinking is maybe the best thing to do is if you just CC info@CT250 on your email, then they can respond back and I can handle the follow-up. And hopefully they reply all. We know that they don't always, but hopefully they reply all. And that way I can handle all of the follow-up. But if you are sending messages and you just want to, if you could just like mark that you sent it to that person, that way I know that you did it. And if you didn't, then I can follow up with them. But that way we're hopefully staying a little organized and I'm not double emailing somebody that you already contacted.
I think you've set it up well. I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Do you have a deadline when you want us to send these emails by?
Let's end the meeting and do it right now.
That's what I was kind of thinking, honestly. Let's do a short meeting and just do it now.
Can I ask, while I'm
yeah.
betraying my idiocy about technology, the way I'm embracing my mid-40s is by just not being able to use computers. Can someone tell me in Outlook how to add a reply to field and then doesn't have to be CC'd?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Does anyone
Yes,
know?
I honestly
missed the
didn't even know
days
you
of
could do
mud
that.
and pine. Just make your own X reply to.
Does
I don't
anyone
know.
know how to do this, or should I? Because that would definitely make it more likely that you get what you
Reply
wanted.
to field Outlook.
Under
I would just Google
options,
it, but
there's a direct replies to button.
Okay, I will Google it. Sorry, yes.
So you might be able to do that.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I had no idea that was an option, but
and
I'm glad it is.
going to run away. I'm going to do what Amherst says and Google each of these people and find out whether I'm addressing it to first select person or mayor. And I'm going to try to send these right now.
Thank you. Thank you. I can pull, I didn't think to pull their titles when I pulled the list out of our CRM. So I can pull it and I can just put it on like another tab here. That way I'm not going through and like editing each tab here, but I'll make one big tab at the end that will have the title.
okay, great. So like this week, you want us to do it this week?
It would be nice if you could, and that way we'll know who to follow up with next week. Because it's coming up. We're almost there. It's just a little bit crazy, but all right. Anything else? Other business?
Reply to is not available in Outlook for Mac, just so you know. This was not my idiocy.
Can you use mail.app? Can you do it in mail.app?
The amount of time, I think I could be done with this project now. So let me go do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Try not to get arrested.
Thank you.
Bye.